Hi, everyone. I've had a lot of comments. How did you get so flexible? I wasn't always this flexible. Just in the last really 10 years or so, I've increased my flexibility through specific stretching, daily yoga, and I'm going to show you a few things today that have really helped me increase my flexibility since I turned 50 years ago. So, to start, sit in a position with your legs out in front of you. And if your hamstrings are really tight, you might want to sit on a blanket. And with your spine straight, not rounding, lead with your heart, shoulders back, and just start to come forward a little bit until you feel those hamstrings. And then you might go a little further, just listen to your body. Remember, we're just doing an assessment here. So notice where you are. Maybe notice the position of your hands. Keep your spine long, so we're not trying to round to try to get our nose closer to our legs. Think of a nice line of energy from the crown of your head away from your sacrum, and you're hinging from your hip crease. So notice where you are. And we'll come back to this later. The other thing to keep in mind is when you're doing your stretching. You're going to be more flexible in the evenings and less flexible in the mornings. So if you really want to increase your flexibility quicker, it might be easier to do it if you just focus in the evenings. You'll notice a bigger change. So we'll be using a strap. We'll be focusing today on flexibility of our hamstrings. Always make sure you're doing a practice, yoga practice, other physical practices that work the whole body. This is just a focus on the hamstrings today. And it really is sort of like a highway to the hamstrings. It is a long journey. To start, we're going to lay down and use the strap. This is one of my favorite stretches. So start in a constructive rest with your knees bent, feet flat on the mat. And then straighten your right leg up to the sky. Point and flex through that foot, just sort of getting a little feel of the muscles there and getting a little action into the ankle. And you can also just use your hands instead of a strap, but I think a strap is really nice. It's a nice option. So you can put the strap around the ball of your foot or in front of your heel. And we will be using our hands as well for a certain part of this. So make sure it's not right in the middle of the arch. So the strap just in front of the heel or the ball of the foot. And try to keep that right leg as straight as is comfortable for you. If your hamstrings are real tight and you're bending the knee because the hamstrings feel tight, you're not going to get the same stretch. You're not going to lengthen those hamstrings like this. Try to straighten the leg. But again, keep in mind, if there's any injury in your hamstrings, you may have to modify. Never force. So start to draw that leg towards your head. Hands might be on the strap close to the foot, so you can just relax your arms and notice that stretch. Now from here, you might slide that left foot a little bit away from you. If your hamstrings are real tight, you might keep that knee bent. If it feels comfortable to straighten the leg, sometimes you get a nice stretch into that hip flexor of the left leg. That's fine. But if you straighten that left leg and then your right leg goes away from you so that you're not getting enough of a stretch in your hamstrings, you might come back and bend that left knee. So find your variation. Another variation is to slide those hands down the strap so that your upper arms are on the mat or floor. Find what feels best to you. And notice where you're feeling this stretch. We're going to hold here about a minute or so. And then we're going to come into some resistant stretching. So resistant stretching involves a little more effort. So we're pushing against getting a stretch. We're resisting the stretch. Right now, there's just, if any, just a very slight resistance. So notice how this feels, and maybe notice the position or relationship between your right foot and your head or your chest, like where your right toe is in relationship to your body. Is it just about over your chest or your belly or your head? And try to keep your right leg, your right foot just about over your body. A few more breaths here. And then if you're using the strap, release the strap and bring your hands to either behind your calf or your thigh. Avoid pulling at the knee. If you're using the thigh, and I find this is pretty comfortable, you can clasp your hands, elbows are close to your body, and start to draw your leg towards your head with your hands as you push your leg away from you. It's a little easier with your hands instead of the strap here for this one. So you determine the level of effort on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe like a 3 or 4. So you're actively pushing that leg away from you as you're pulling it towards you. So you might explore using your hands behind your calf, drawing your leg towards you and pushing your leg away. So your arms are going to be working here. Just make sure there's no strain in your shoulders. We'll be here for about 30 seconds or so. Little more action here. And then release the resistant stretch effort. Come back to where your hands were earlier on the strap, or just drawing your leg towards you without the resistant stretch. And notice if your leg has gone a little further. Hold here. Notice if your right toes have gone past that point they were earlier. Notice if you've increased that range of motion, that stretch slightly. And then release that right foot. Straighten your right foot out on your mat and pause. Notice the difference between left and right. Notice if one leg seems longer than the other. Notice if one leg seems higher or lower in space. Notice if one hip seems higher or lower. And then we'll do the other side because I don't want to leave you uneven. Bend your knees, come back to constructive rest. Straighten your left leg up to the sky. Point and flex through your left foot. Getting a little action in that leg and foot and ankle. And in addition, it's really good to strengthen your hamstrings as well as stretch them. And then relax that action in the foot. Bend your knee. Take that strap again around the ball of the foot or in front of the heel, whatever you were doing before. And start to draw that leg towards your head. Again, you might reposition that right leg. You might keep the foot on the mat or straighten it out. Hands might be close to the foot on the strap, or you can slide your hands down on the strap and rest your upper arms on the mat. Find your variation. Again, try to keep that left leg as straight as is comfortably possible for you. Notice the relationship of where your left toes are. Are they over your belly or chest, shoulder or head? Just notice. One side might be different than the other. And again, another variation, if your hands get tired, feel free to change the position of how you're holding the strap. Just making sure that there's no strain in your shoulders. And notice how the sensation of stretch feels. Notice if the sensation shifts and changes slightly. And then if you're using the strap, just release the strap for a moment, coming into the resistant stretching. Hands again might be clasped behind the thigh, elbows close to your body, pulling your leg with your hands and arms as you push the leg into your hands. You can also hold behind the calf, feeling your arms working. Just make sure there's not strain in your head and neck. You also might benefit from having a blanket under your head if you feel like your head is going back. So find the position of your hands and arms that feels best to you. Actively pushing the leg away from you as you're drawing it towards you. So the leg is working. This is also activating the hamstrings as you're pushing away and getting a little stretch as you're drawing it towards you. Mostly it's activating. Arms might be getting tired. You can switch how you're holding the leg if you want. Just make sure you're not pulling behind your knee. You determine the level of effort. And then release. Come back to that stretch, pulling the strap gently, and notice where those left toes are now. Notice if they've gone a little further. Notice how this feels. And then release the strap. Straighten your legs out. Notice sensation. Hopefully now both legs feel about the same. Hopefully the legs and hips feel level. And then bend one knee and then the other, coming back to constructive rest. So arms by your side. Press into your feet. You can either keep your hips on the mat or lift them slightly for a bridge pose. You can also hold on to the edge of your mat with your hands. Pressing into your feet to lift your hips. And imagine you're trying to slide your heels towards your shoulders in a bridge pose here that is activating your hamstrings. Feel those hamstrings working as you lengthen out of your low back. Breathe here. Make sure this feels okay on your knees. And then thoughtfully release down. Draw your knees in towards your chest. Roll over to one side. Push yourself thoughtfully back up to a seat. And straighten your legs out in front of you. We're going to come back to our assessment that we did earlier. Remember to hinge from your hip crease. Keep your spine nice and long. Take an inhale here, lengthen your spine. Exhale, hinge from your hip crease. Coming into your Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. And notice if you've gone a little further. And once you're here, and this is great to do at the end of your day, before you get into bed, hold this position for about 3 minutes, longer if you want, and this will really help with gaining more flexibility into your hamstrings. So you've already started to work into that. So this little brief routine, if you do it daily, every month you're going to notice a little bit more lengthening into the hamstrings. And you can have your hands and arms wherever they feel best to you. Just really try to keep your spine long rather than rounding. And remember, it's not about how far you go, but who you are when you get there. So just notice the improvement from your assessment, from where you start, and just notice how you feel. It should feel like you're getting more openness in your body. You should feel better. That's the goal. Staying here again, as long as it feels appropriate to you, if you can hold it at least a minute. And at the end of the day, about 3 minutes. You can go through this same practice, doing your assessment, taking your strap, stretching each leg and doing the resistant stretch. Maybe a little bit of activation in the hamstrings in that bridge pose, and then come back to your assessment and hold. If you don't have a lot of time at the end of the day, simply hold this position, this stretch, inviting each inhale to lengthen your spine and each exhale to soften as if you're releasing into gravity. Inhale lengthens through your spine. Exhale softens without forcing, like little waves. Inhale lengthening through your spine. Exhale release. Take a few more breaths here. And then slowly use your hands and arms and begin to make your way back upright. Notice how you feel. I hope you enjoyed that practice today. I hope you incorporate it into your routine. And let me know if you're noticing an increase in your flexibility of your hamstrings. Daily practice. Come back to this. Watch the video each day if you would like a little reminder. Make sure you save it, like it, and subscribe if you've not already done so. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon.